Hi folks, solar cell tabbing. Sounds easy, but it looks easy. I assure you it's not. There are a lot of mistakes that can be made, all of which will give you a poor result. I know because I've made virtually all of them. Therefore, a how-to video to explain in detail every step. And I'll put a list of everything that I use in the comments below as a guide to help you make a perfect cell every time. First, let's talk about the tools needed. This is my soldering iron for making electrical connections of electronic circuitry. It is a low power, grounded iron, suitable for CMOS circuits, and I've used this for 20 years. I thought I was an expert in soldering, given so much experience soldering circuit boards. However, a solar panel is not anything like that. Silicon is a rock, and what you're soldering to is a very thin layer of silver deposited on a thin slice of rock. With electronic circuits, you can let it heat up and then apply the solder. With solar cells, you have to move very fast so as not to warp the rock, and it warps very easy. What you're going to need is a minimum of a 60-watt iron. And I have here several models or styles of tip. These are all 60-watt irons. This was my first one, and it is a bevel tip, and it worked very well. The one problem that I had with this was that it was because of the size of the tip, it was depositing a little bit of solder on these little branches that come off to the sides. To solve that, I found an iron that uses a smaller tip. It's also 60 watt. This one happens to be adjustable, but I turn it all the way up to the 60. It also has a bevel tip, and this does not deposit any solder on these branches coming off of these silver pads here. I have another one here, and this is a pencil tip. I haven't tried that yet, but the goal here is to see how that works. I haven't tried it yet. I have had perfect success with this bevel tip, and let me show this to you closely. It is a simple bevel tip, and that way you can just go right across the cell just like this. Now, given the high power of these irons, do not use an extension cord. It will not get as hot. Plug it straight into a wall outlet. Now, if you're forced to use an extension cord, then I recommend using something like this. This is an appliance cord, and this will pass the power, full power from the wall outlet to the iron. You're going to need all you can get. The second very important tool is FLUX. This is Kester solder, and it is number 951. This is the choice for soldering solar cells. Low solids as a no clean flux. Flux is your best friend. Your very, very best friend. You want to use plenty. Do not spare it. It's not expensive, and it's critical to a good connection that will last and not degrade. You simply press the tip to get it started, and then run across the pads like this. You will also want to flux the tabbing wire itself. The third important tool is what you see underneath here. This is the glass. This helps resist warping. You simply want to lay the cell right onto the glass, and you want to solder about this fast, and I'm going to show a close-up of me soldering this so that you can see me chase the bead. Now, what you see in manufacturing are 90 and 120 watt soldering irons and a heated fiberglass mat, and you can certainly spend the extra for these, but what I will show you will make a perfect connection every time. Now remember, move fast, and flux is your best friend. There is no second pass. The silver pad will lift off. One final step of preparation before we solder the cell is we're going to discuss how to tin the iron. What I've done here is I've put some solder on the tip here and I've let it blacken up. This is how you want your iron to cool down, always with a bead of solder on the tip and then unplug it so that it cools down with solder covering the tip. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to wipe it off and I'm going to tin the iron. Tin means to clean it. And as you can see here, nice and shiny, and that is what you want. And to retin it, you simply do this. Okay? This is 60-40 solder. It's lead free. This is 0.6. You can use various thicknesses. I have a sample of 0.3 here, much smaller, not really necessary for tinning purposes. You won't use a lot of solder. This is the tab wire. It's a 2mm tab wire. It's already pre-tinned. Simply a piece of copper that has been already coated with 60-40 lead-free solder. When soldering a cell, after tinning, you want to touch and melt along here, and hopefully I can demonstrate how to chase the bead on this short piece of tab wire. So we're going to go through a dry run first, and you can practice this just like this before you attempt to solder your cell. Once you are able to chase your bead, then you will know you're ready for the real thing. Okay? We're going to clean the iron, and we're going to take it off. Let it reheat for a second. Okay? Put it down, and you'll see the melt. You see that melt? You want to chase your bead just like this. Okay? This is very difficult because I'm cross-handed, but you'll want to go faster than that. That is how you chase your bead on the cell. All right. We'll move on to the cell next. To prepare the tab wire, as you can see, this piece right here, it has some curve in it, and that is too much. You'll want to cut this 12 1/8 inches long. That is the distance of one cell to the next, with a little bit of room in between. You'll want to relax this wire like I have already done with these two. Now to do that, it's a simple matter of using the FLUX pen and run it front to back to relax it with a very gentle motion, very light pressure, like this, very light pressure on one side and then the other. You're doing two things here. You're fluxing the tab wire and you're relaxing the tab wire itself. As you can see, that gave it a lot of spring. So you want to go back to the other side and with very gentle pressure relax the other side. And at times you'll need to do this 2 or 3 times to get it what I call just completely relaxed. And that is pretty good right there. Now, the more relaxed and flat this is, the easier it's going to be for you when you go to solder your cell. There's a little bit of bow in this laterally that should not be an issue. And as I go through the process, you'll understand why. So just a little snip with scissors. It cuts very easy. Accuracy counts. You don't want to waste the material. You'll just have to do extra trimming later on. And the more you handle your cells, the more likely it is that you're going to damage it. And for the next segment, we're going to begin soldering. And we've arrived at the moment of truth where we're going to tab this cell. As I said before, the bow in the tab wire can be an issue. If you'll notice, I'm showing a little bit of bow, and the pads are very straight. So this is something that you're going to have to monitor as you go along and control it. You'll want to cover your pads completely with the tab wire. Anything exposed will simply be the case for less efficiency, so you'll want to move it like that. Okay? Put your finger there. Okay? Use your fingers, control the tab wire, completely covering all of the pads. We're going to pick up iron, clean it, make sure it's nice and shiny. Okay. Be very particular. Alright. Start here. Not the first tab. Little dot of solder. So I can get this thing going. And there it is. Okay? That's all you'll need. Alright? Don't move. Give it a second or two to cool down, and check your connection. Okay, it's a good solid connection. Now you want to move. Put your fingers back here. Okay, hold down your cell. This is where you're going to do your little run, where you're going to chase your bead. Okay, and fighting the bow is simply part of it. Small quantities of tab wire seem to have more bow than the bigger spools, so something to consider. I'm completely taut along here. I'm just holding this up for right now. Once I get close here, I will let go. By then, that should have taken hold. It heats up quickly and it cools down just as quick. Little dot of solder. Okay, right about here is a good place to begin chasing. You've got your bead. You see how it's chasing, and it's trying to go wrong. Now this is incredibly slow. And to there. And we should have a good connection, and we do. Okay. No movement along the wire. We're going to move on to the next one. That was a lot slower and scary than what we should be doing. This is the N side. Okay, solar cells are a p-n junction. I don't know why they don't call them NP junctions. Probably harkens back to the days when they studied what was called, I think it's called conventional flow. But now we know that it is electron flow. So the electrons flow from the front to the back. This is the P side, and this is the collector of a p-n junction. This would be the emitter side. Okay, so this is the source, and this side is the drain. The back side has fewer pads, so it actually goes much easier. You just here, here, and here, 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 and here. I typically just run the length of it, and that is good enough. So what I have here are six-inch pieces. And there's a lot of bow in that. And I would still use that, but for this video, let's use the better wire here, so that you're not bored watching me straighten wire. This would be the process that I would use for the warped one, but it would take a lot more working. Okay. Now it's the same thing. I'm going to show you how I get the pin going. Just a little like that until you see it wet. Just like that, okay? At the end of this tabbing segment, I'm going to show you a couple of options. One thing that I came up with to help me solder more cells per hour. And you can decide for yourself if you want to incorporate them into your process. See if I can get this on camera. Please excuse. Do you have a solder on it? That's it for that. I can't tell you from experience if there's any warping to be had. This is the side that's going to generate the warping. That's always a bow that will make it difficult to get the cell to lay flat under glass. And for the sake of completeness, I wanted to make one comparison. This was the iron that you saw me tab the previous cell with. And this, as I mentioned, is my first one. And as you can see, the difference in size. This one right here, I was moving more slowly, but I had less risk of warping with this. This one right here, you can move very quickly, but it will more likely warp your cell if you move too slowly, and it can lift the pads off. But I wanted to show you on this particular piece right here the speed at which you can move if you use a larger iron. Now the reason why this one is obvious, it's larger, so it holds more heat. If you can visualize a volume of heat, okay, the heat release rate on these irons are the same, but this one will take longer to cool down. That's how fast you move with the bigger blades. And here's the result. Perfectly soldered, tabbed solar cell, ready to produce electrical energy when the sun shines on it. In the next segment, I'm going to show you how to encapsulate this. Okay? And during that segment, I'm going to introduce this guy. This is an encapsulation and vacuum sealing machine that I made out of a few household items that you can do. Now, commercial version of this is upwards in $12,000. Total cost of this with dials was around $300. So we're going to put this guy to work. I'm going to show you how to build this, and I hope this has been helpful to you. I'll see you next time. Same Geo time, same Geo channel. Thanks for watching.